Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, coming all the way from Munich, Germany, Joseph Reger, Chief Technology Officer and Fujitsu Fellow. Stage is yours. All the best.
Good morning, America. So I came in 1.5 days ago from rainy Munich, Germany, into the Sunshine State, where it was raining, pouring rain. So I thought, why don't the Germans have this idea to call a rainy region sunshine anything? I understand now. This morning is different, of course. I hope you will enjoy it. So I'm sitting on this airplane and thinking about, we'll be talking about digital transformation, and we will be talking about digitalize with confidence, which I'll explain in a second what we mean by that. And I'm sitting on this airplane flying up, I don't know, 10,000 kilometers, 10 kilometers, sorry, 10 kilometers, 10,000 meters, if you know what meters are, above the clouds. And I think about this airplane is flying because it's analog. I studied physics, so there needs to be some reward for that, and my reward is I can say things like the Bernoulli principle is making airplanes fly. That's how the airplanes fly, because of the difference in pressure in the air. So it cannot get more analog than that. Of course, the airplane itself is digital in many ways. Of course, its design, its manufacturing, its supply chain management, and in particular, its maintenance is getting digitalized more and more as we speak. And just down the road, Orange County Convention Center, there is an event parallel to ours about applications of RFID, RFID Live, RFID in different industries, and the airlines are there to present what do they do in terms of maintenance using RFID technology and particular software to manage assets. Some of them are technology, Reger, which is also in the neighboring room here on display. And they're talking about how they changed this whole industry doing that, yet the airplane is analog. And that's what digitalize means. Digitalize, and some people confuse that with digitize. Digitize is something entirely different. Digitize is a process in which we convert information of the traditional kind, analog kind, like a book or a piece of music, into a digital file. That's digitizing it. Digitalize is now an accepted usage of the word, is how we penetrate business processes, manufacturing processes, everything that has to do with value creation on the planet Earth via ICT technologies, and change their nature. Sometimes we change their nature so much that they cease to exist. That business model is then gone. Digitalizing things means putting as much information technology into it and digital technologies into it to improve their efficiency or change their nature. That's what digitalizing is. Now, why you should be interested and how you could go about it and what digitalizing with confidence means is what we will talk about in this presentation. So why is this digital transformation important? Well, the short version of it is that it's inevitable. You have no choice. Sorry to say that, but there is no choice. Because as these big waves in recent times came, and it started like 40 years ago, with the internet based on connectivity and communication, and as it became useful, not just because there were research institutes and databases connected, but businesses started to get connected. This was actually not 40 years ago, that was like 25 years ago when the World Wide Web was created. And it was easy for us to find content on the net because there were hyperlinks and there were web pages and there were presences of all kinds. And commerce and companies doing commerce discovered that this is a very, very good platform to reinvent the way they do business. And they started to create this, at that time it was called e-commerce type of applications on the web. And then later on, in the second wave of all this, this whole operation became independent of wired networks. and became a mobile internet. So we could do it now in the networks, using cell phones and similar things. And all of a sudden, commerce could happen and transactions could happen even in areas where there were no wired networks. And even at times, and for individuals, that was the more important aspect, even at times when they were traveling or they just had 5 minutes to do something. So we started to make use of not only the omnipresent nature of the internet through the mobile networks, but that these online shops are open 24 hours a day, and therefore it changed the entire operation and commerce that we do. Now, it doesn't stop there, of course, and currently we are transitioning into the third wave of this digital development, and the third wave is called the Internet of Things. Up to that point, just like 2 years ago, essentially it was us. We were people on the internet communicating with each other, transacting with each other, sharing, exchanging information. But now, not just us, and not just people, and not just the devices of people, but the devices of devices of devices are getting now on the internet. And what we are getting is the Internet of Things, where everything has a certain intelligence, or certainly an identity, so that it can be identified, it can be searched for, and it can be connected to others. So now the whole thing is becoming like at least 10 times bigger as it used to be. And it's becoming more useful as it's becoming bigger. And there's now communication, and there's now control, and there's now all aspects of life participating in this totally optimized and very efficient way of running the planet, essentially, not just our businesses. Now, some people call this third wave as the cyber-physical world. That's a very nice word, and in particular in Germany, it is very popular. Because the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel, who is, by the way, called by your President Obama Merkel, so Angela Merkel is the physicist by training. And therefore, she likes words like that, cyber-physical systems. What she means by that, and what the whole country means by that, is simply the statement that if you can put some intelligence, not just into devices, there are lots of devices being manufactured now that have a certain intelligence built in, but onto the devices. These are the devices that are not intelligent at all, but you stick something onto them, like an RFID tag, so that they can be identified, and maybe a little bit of a sensor that measures very simple physical parameters, temperature, pressure, and humidity, similar things like that. You can actually gain some information, and later on, if you have enough data, some insight of what they are doing and how they are doing, whether they need maintenance and how long they will be running. And that's very, very useful for the analog world that we have created around us. So this digital transformation is essentially a process of putting some intelligence, or at least gaining information about the analog world that's around us, and therefore it is in some ways the convergence of physical and digitalized at the end. Now, the next wave is already visible. It's always like that. If you look at the chart, you will see that the big waves do not end before the new wave starts. That's the nature of things. And the next wave that's very clearly on the horizon now is what is called by many people artificial intelligence. I don't happen to like the word too much, because in many cases it's not really artificial intelligence, it's more like machine learning. However, we will not belabor the point. Someday it will quite possibly become artificial intelligence. So let's just call it like that. And that paired with robotics is going to be the wave that sits on top of this and helps us to deal with the complexity and the security challenges that is created by the Internet of Things. Because this huge network with all the dealings and wheelings going on in the network present a challenge. It's very difficult to control it, difficult to understand it. We're going to need help. We're going to need help, and help is coming partially from what is called artificial intelligence and robotics today. And that wave has started already. So what this means is that this development is inevitable. Don't even try to fight it. You stand no chance. The question is how to make good use of that. So in other words, why should this be interested? Now, I do understand that digital and digital transformation means different things to different people, and let's just get one thing straight here. Of course, it is a means to do product innovation and open innovation, including ideas of other people and partners and even customers, and putting it into the innovation process of the company. It is a way to optimize the logistic process and the manufacturing process. It is a way to digitalize and optimize business operations in many ways. That's what the airlines do with RFID technology and so on. For some other companies, it is a way to transform the customer experience and change the way that you work with your knowledge and the data first, and then with your knowledge about your customers, and optimize the sales process and the customer experience connected to it. And for some others, it is a business transformation tool, because while you are doing that, while you are redefining your value chain, you might discover that your business model is broken. It doesn't mean that it was always broken. It's just times are changing, and now in this new times and the digital penetration that's happening, the business model either needs revision or it has to yield to other business models that are coming in through the digital transformation and the innovation made possible. So I understand that. In general, and this is a very important statement, digital transformation doesn't mean you have to, if you don't transform the business model, you achieved nothing. Not true. Not true at all. The small pieces that you can collect. If you change the way you work with customer data, if you change the work you collect customer data from using social media, for an example, if you change your maintenance process, you can work through the value chain and take pieces and parts of it and optimize it and change them by using the digital technologies. And someday you might get to the point that you say, I'm going to redo the whole thing. And that's fine, but if you are not redoing the whole thing, you still did something incredibly useful and incredibly beneficial to the company. So that's what digital in general can do. And what it leads to, very clearly, is a new economy, because there is evidence now. This is not an opinion of mine or Fujitsu or somebody's. There is evidence now that digitalized businesses can create more value. Again, even if they are not 100% digitalized and it's not the whole value chain or not the whole experience. You should strive to get there, but it's not necessary for benefits. Now, how do we look like in the market currently? How does the market look like? Well, first of all, in the private sector on your left-hand side, you see that the part of the revenue in most companies, and this is a CIO survey, that is essentially digital. What they mean by that is generated by the digital transformation, is going up very nicely from 20-some% to 40-some% in just 5 years currently, and that's about almost getting to half of most companies' revenue, so that's a very substantial influence. It's an interesting fact, by the way, that the CEO in red and the CIO have a different opinion of how far they got and how far they will get in the future. Apparently, the CEOs have a voracious appetite for more digitalization, because they think, and they might be right this time, that it's going to be a big and substantial part of the business. Now, in the public sector, and this is a slide that maybe is not so important for you, because I know, I used to spend some time in this country, and I know in particular in election times how everybody goes on, less government, and in Europe we don't do that. We sort of understand that we must have some government and accept it. So our question is not, how do we get less government? Our question is, how do we make the public sector and the government more efficient in their ways, and how they deal with the citizens of the country? So the relevant question is, what is the percentage of those processes that are becoming digital? It's not too bad. It's not too bad. 40-something%, going up to 77. It should be approaching 90% or so in 10 years from time. So there is an efficient way of dealing with the governments in general, speeding up their processes and make it easier for the citizen to deal with government. So the market forecast is looking good. There is lots of activity going on, and the different industries have different maturities as always. Financial services are leading in this survey. This is Fujitsu's own survey. We asked around a couple of hundred, actually a couple of thousand respondents told us how they think in their particular industry sectors, how they are faring in terms of how satisfied they are with the digital services in the sector. Financial services are very happy of what they are doing. Well. I don't know how many of you are from financial services. This is not personal, but I have to tell you that that's probably because the financial services industries do not recognize what's coming at them. All these fintech startups and all the challenges and the Bitcoin and the blockchain technologies that all have the potential to dramatically change how transactions are done. Remember, the first thing the internet did is dramatically reduce the price of a transaction of a financial kind, like by a factor of 10 in the beginning and another 10 later on. Now these technologies will push that down to zero or almost zero. So it will be another version of the zero marginal cost society in terms of transactions if these financial technologies are implemented. So I don't know why they are so optimistic about it, but that's fine. They just probably don't see the flood coming at them. And I can see Diane here in the second row, Blue Cross Blue Shields. Diane, do you remember 2 years ago at one of your IT conferences, we had this gentleman from an agency who were speaking about the security challenge, and I liked what he said. He said, there are two kinds of corporations in America. The one is that have been hacked, and the other ones that who don't know yet that they have been hacked. And I remembered that. Remember, Diane? Yes. So you see, that's the situation in the financial industry. There are financial institutes who know that there will be challenged, and the others who don't know, but they will be still challenged, of course. That's coming at them. Never mind. I'm not beating on them. I'm just saying that since the big part of the activity in the financial industry is transactional, can be done on a computer, therefore, obviously, everybody is trying to squeeze out everything that's in there, and with the new technologies, it will be possible. Still, across the board, looking quite good. However, if you look into any single company and ask, how do you feel about the digital transformation hitting you, then we see a very different picture. This is Fujitsu's own survey, and we asked this question of, what's the digital alignment in your, what's the digital gamble in your business? So how do you feel the digital transformation is working for you? And 71% of the respondents are saying that it's a gamble in the sense that we cannot plan it. We have no idea when we're going to be through with the project, and we don't know when the return is going to be. So that's devastating. In companies where the CFO is a strong man, digital transformation projects will not happen. He says, what? You don't know? You're not going to do it. So that is a huge problem, that it lacks this planning aspect to it, that the financial planning aspect to it. Sometimes it lacks even the outcome. We don't know what we have to do something, we have to turn digital, but we don't exactly know what to do about it. So digital transformation seems to be a gamble, big issue. Now, the alignment question, different parts of the business, in particular IT and the business lines, the way they work together and how they apply together, what kind of alignment do we have? And it says only 36%, which is roughly a third of the people who are saying that, oh, we are all aligned. We know what we would like to achieve. Mind you, that includes the IT parts of the business. So this common wisdom that you don't worry about the digital transformation and the innovation part, the IT department will do it for you. Well, it won't. Or only, on average, a third of them maybe will. Key learning, digital transformation is not an IT affair. It is an IT affair as well as a business affair. And therefore, there needs to be an alignment. Now, the third question that's interesting is, What kind of confidence do you have? In particular, we asked the CIOs, so the IT people in a company, are you confident that you can advise the CEO what to do, what the next steps are? And they said, yes, we are. Only 25% of them said that. That's a fourth of all IT departments. That's simply not enough, because even though I said that it's not an IT affair in the sense that it needs to be a business aspect to it as well, I need to say that without IT, it doesn't work. Now, I'm from an IT company, so you could say, yeah, of course he says that. However, there are transactional engines, there are databases, there is historical data, there are networks, there are security protocols, there is lots of IT stuff in a well-maintained company or corporation. Now, ignore all that and go with a couple of startups and do only the new IT, the fast IT part of it. In all likelihood, it's not going to work. Not before it breaks your current company. So if there is any desire to use what's there already and integrate it, then there needs to be an alignment, and there needs to be a confidence of the IT departments to help you there. So the digital transformation, in sum, is suffering from a number of things, such as the lack of skills to plan and define the digital projects. Normal project management skills do not suffice. And the inability to foresee the project results, that was the predictability, the gamble aspect of it. And in general, skills across the board, on all levels. I'll comment on that in a second. Then again, I just mentioned the importance of integration with existing, well, the nasty word legacy is being used here. Legacy means everything that exists. That's what it means. So with the existing infrastructure. And then the lack of an appropriate technology partner has been identified by the respondents of the survey. Now, that's the point in the presentation where I, in and on behalf of Fujitsu, raise my hand. What? You're looking for an appropriate technology partner? And the rest of the presentation is about how Fujitsu could help you to do that. First of all, let's get this straight, where the company is heading. We don't just do bits and bytes. We do that too. We don't do just services and application management and that kind of, we do that too. We do have a direction. And the direction is this. Our goal is to build what we call the human-centric intelligent society. That's the vision, a safer and more prosperous, sustainable world. Fujitsu, as a Japanese-originated corporation, has this direction defined because we would like to have something that we can hold on to in case of doubt whenever we do any kind of business with you. That relates to our way of doing business that we call responsible business. That relates to the projects that we do, and that relates to our desire to do something useful for mankind. So we have a charted goal. Now, we have a way to do the innovation that's required to reach the human-centric intelligent society, and that's called the human-centric innovation. And the human-centric innovation, and that's the theme of this conference that's going around the world, identifies three pillars or three dimensions to the innovation notion. And two of them are the ones that you find in any company's presentation. Everybody is talking about the infrastructure somehow, and now the Internet of Things and the data centers and everything. And also, almost everybody is talking about the information aspect of it, how you store information, how you analyze, and business analytics, and the mathematical methods that are required, and the insight, and depending on who you talk to, we talk about data, about innovation, about insight. Some people talk about knowledge, and very few talk about wisdom, but that's at the end of this process. So that's fine. What is particular to Fujitsu is the third dimension, and that's the people dimension. So the shortest way of putting this is to say that we do innovation with companies in and on behalf of the people. Now, I used this phrase before, and I'm sure you didn't think anything about it when I used it, but I have this 40-year-old dictionary. It's called American Heritage. And in that dictionary, they actually make a difference between the phrases in behalf and on behalf. Well, they do make the remark that this is disappearing from the language now, so if you don't mind, I'll tell you what's in the dictionary, what the difference is between in behalf of something and on behalf of something. In behalf, in this old meaning, again, I understand it's disappearing from current English. In behalf means in the interest of, for the benefit of something. So if you do that, then it will benefit that particular person or company that you represent. Whereas on behalf means that you are representative of. That doesn't guarantee that you are acting in interest of that company or person. So that's the two meanings. That in and on behalf means I'm a representative and I'm doing the right things for that company. In translation, in and on behalf of the people, it means that Fujitsu likes to do innovation in the interest of the people so that it does benefit the people. And we have lots of projects to prove that, where we build smart cities and traffic optimization and things like that in the interest of people so that they have a more livable life. And when we act on behalf of the employees of a company, what I mean by that is we are putting them into the innovation process of the company. We are enabling them. We are empowering them. Fujitsu's technologies and the innovation process is such that it makes use of available talent in the companies. And I'll come back to that. So in and on behalf of the people, 40-year-old definition. Now, there are a number of challenges, of course, before I come to a few examples that we have to face. I'm not talking up a digital transformation and make it sound too good, because there are a number of challenges that we need to face. Leadership and talent. Typically, the talent part of that is being discussed. Shortage of skills, difficult to find people, nobody's trained yet, university curricula have not changed, they're not producing the right digital talent, and so on. And this is all true. Now, let me point out that there's a leadership aspect of that too. You know, in lots of companies, when digital transformation projects are started, the CEO simply declares that the management team needs to go out and teach the people how to do that. Well, the relevant question is, how do they know if it did not exist? It is simply a wrong assumption to think that the management team will know everything there is to know about it. The management team is not different from the rest of the people. We have to learn. We all have to learn from the very beginning, so there is not just skilling for the workforce, there is skilling for the management team and the high levels of hierarchy in the company. Now, it is easier because it's getting easier because digital transformation is a process that's doing away with company hierarchies. Let's face that. That's what's happening. It's ad hoc teams, project organization. Traditional hierarchies do not help very much. So it's going to be easier, and maybe at some point we don't need to separate these two out. Now, the whole network is becoming a lot more complex. I mentioned that with the addition of the Internet of Things and the lots of devices, and we are talking tens of billions of them that are being added, we are creating such a complex network that its management is becoming an issue, and the security challenges are formidable. Security in these networks is very difficult to do. In fact, one of the best applications of machine learning or artificial intelligence is to try to use those routines to protect the network. Look for anomalies and strange things going on, let the network learn, deep learning of what the threats are and how they work and so on. We absolutely and desperately do need that. And there are, of course, the issues in terms of adoption, because in some countries there are huge privacy concerns. I live in Germany where that's the whole thing people talk about. Oh, privacy, 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 data protection all the time. They do understand that there are digital benefits and digital gains, however, they are not prepared to give up privacy aspects for it. So there is lots of the society needs to discuss these things and create a situation where growth is possible, but still there is a certain privacy and data protection that's available. And the social acceptability is another issue. So there are adoption issues as well. These need to be managed. These need to be managed. Now, complex issue. complex problem, but there is a way to handle it. And this is what we call the digital balance. That's our proposition. In a nutshell, what it means is use what's there, build on it, integrate with it, however, push it to the limits. Adopt a digital-first strategy, but be realistic about what can be done and how it gets integrated into the life of the company and into the IT systems, which is why the hybrid IT approach and our way of doing it, and we have a number of expert talks about it this afternoon, works so well, and it is needed so much to create that kind of a balance. Digital-first strategies are good if you understand what's doable and what not. And I always say, we discuss this with customers, that push it to the edge and then ask yourself, what happened if I push it a bit further? But don't necessarily do that, because your corporation, your company, your people, your management team, your resources might not be able to handle it today. But you've got to know when that can happen and how it will happen. Forward planning needs to happen. That you could call the digital balance. Now, let's take a couple of examples. I'm going to take you through the continents in that journey, what we are doing with customers, so that you get a feeling for what we could do together, how Fujitsu could help you. So we are back in Europe. This is a leading fashion retailer. I'm not going to say the name of it, and very present in the United States too. They have 130,000 people, employees, and about 2,500 stores, annual turnover something like $25 billion US. This is for European scales, this is a big operation. Again, present all over the world. They have stores, brick and mortar. Now the problem with that is that you don't get the digital benefit of online commerce. In online commerce, you know what's possible. All the purchase history, all the profile, all the presence in the social media, you mesh it together, bring it together, you figure out everything about your customer. Now, how do you do that? You can't do that in a store. You don't even know what they like or who that person is, And there's a problem, because in the fashion industry, it's not quite like food. It doesn't turn bad next day or next week, but at the end of the season, it does turn bad. So something needs to be done about this, and they need help. They need a kind of similar knowledge about customers, even if the same will not be possible as in the online environments, and we have created that for them. So this fashion retailer is working with Fujitsu. We go into their stores. We figure out what kind of devices the customers are using when they come in. If they have customer royalty cards, we try to tap into that. But if that's not possible, not a problem. We have motion sensors everywhere, simple devices that can be had at Best Buy for very little money, and then figure out what the patterns of motion are. Who is spending what time at this desk and at that exhibit? What colors are being looked at longer than others, and what is the path through the store? How do what do they look high? Do they look low? What do they do? What time of the day? What does it depend on? Gender, age, whatever, and you can all correlate all that information and give a similar set of data to the retailer, so that he can figure out that I have got to rearrange that store. I've got to put this stuff into this other place, and this color is not the one I should order again. There will be another one, and then so on. And that depends on the part of town where you are and what kind of patrons you have in your business. So the kind of information that's available online, almost the same thing available there. Optimization, retail analytics, Fujitsu's retail analytics running in the Fujitsu cloud, and then doing the analysis to do the prediction and the analysis with cloud computing methods and services. Big gain, big gain to this retailer. Let's move to the United States. This is a global engineering company, and they are manufacturing these beasties. I don't know whether you recognize what this is. This is a gas turbine. It's a marvelous piece of mechanical engineering. And while we don't have a person in the picture, you would feel that this is not something you can lift, okay? They use a couple of thousand parts that they need to assemble. And not only that, this kind of engineering is going into municipalities, power generation, needs to be auditable, needs to be traceable, and so on. So the tools that they are using, a couple of thousand of them, almost as many tools as parts that need to be assembled, need to be gauged, and need to be certified and calibrated and everything. And first of all, you've got to find them in a hangar where you're going to do this. So it would be awfully nice, wouldn't it, not if the forklift knew where to go to pick up a part that needs to be assembled into it, and know where the tool is and whether it's been calibrated this morning as it is required by law, maybe, or company internal guidelines. Now, that kind of asset management and coordination cannot be just simply done by some people trying to remember how this works. Okay, what do you do on a Monday morning? So instead, what you can do is stick some identification tags, RFID tags onto them, have a software that does both the asset management, keeping track of what's where. You can put beacons everywhere in the assembly hall, and no, that's not an assembly hall. That's a hangar where they put it together. Excuse me. And you can put these beacons so that you can locate every part, every tool, and use it accordingly. And then even have automatic workflows so that on-demand assembly and just-in-time assembly is possible. You know, that's the thing that well, I almost said a worker, but in many cases it's a robot, turns around that the right part arrives exactly, and I can insert it. Now, to orchestrate that, you've got to have a workflow. And that workflow can be done inside of the Fujitsu software Globe Ranger that we are using for it, with the RFID tags that we are also using to make parts somewhat intelligent. That's actually not far away from here, a couple of hours from here. And this kind of RFID tags and asset management used for it can be used in many, many different ways. Down the road again, Orange County Convention Center, Fujitsu has a booth where we are demonstrating washable tags. Washable tags. These are very thin, very small tags. They're flexible. They can put into garments, clothes, pieces of clothing. And not far from here, in this case a couple of minutes away from here, there is a big company using them, putting into costumes of all kinds and managing like $100 million worth of assets in costumes and garments in all their resorts around the world to do the proper management. And they know exactly when they need to be cleaned, they know where they have been placed, and so on. $100 million worth in garments and costumes, managed by a clever software, essentially and RFID tags, very similar to this engineering arrangement. This is not why we are here in Orlando. We came because of the sunshine. Now, let's go to an example in Australia. This is not so much about money. This is about, of course, we do get paid. I hope we do. But this is about the safer, more enjoyable, prosperous life of people. What you see here is a foot of a prematurely born baby. About 10% of all babies born on the planet Earth are premature. And in the first weeks, they need special care. Many of them need to be an incubator. One of my daughters was like that, so I know exactly how this works. And I know exactly how anxious parents are to be with their baby all the time and look at them in the incubator and worry and bond. However, this becomes very difficult to do if your home is like 500 miles away from the hospital, which is the case oftentimes in Australia in that example. A couple of 100 miles. You can't just drop out in the lunch break and see your baby and come back, because it takes 10 hours or even more to get there. So the idea came up to reorganize this whole thing in such a way that at least observation, watching the baby, bonding with it, is possible through a secured video stream. Now you could say, oh, that's easy. We just buy for $29 a webcam, stick it to the cot, and stream it and watch it from home. Yeah, you could do that. The problem is that this is a hospital. This is a very private thing. This is privacy in terms of medical records. Who knows what's going to happen? And then some very personal. You really don't want that. And certainly a hospital doesn't want that. So what you need instead is secure communication, very personal, point to point, that follows the baby and doesn't watch a room or a cot or a crib or anything like that. Follows the baby, and it transmits the stream, and it's highly secure, and it's running in a secure cloud. Again, in a secure cloud, not just any cloud. Clouds are galore. You can buy them on the credit card, but they're not secure in typical cases. So we have built the system for the hospital. It's running on the Fujitsu secured cloud, secured video protocols and streams, and providing this experience of being able to watch your baby from home, the digital part of that process in healthcare. Now, my last example is going to be about machine learning. I had to come to that. You remember the fourth wave on the first slide, artificial intelligence and robotics coming in, and there, I need to say something about machine learning because everybody is talking about it. In particular, here in the United States, I think that qualifies for the latest craze description. All companies are working on it. And that's fine. I don't want to be negative about it. We need that. We need that to deal with the complexity and the security issues of the Internet of Things. We need that to be able to make sense of the huge amounts of data that these devices are generating. And therefore, we cannot just go and simply analyze them and you know, the old-fashioned methods. You need to do something smarter than that, and that's putting some smarts into the algorithms and machines. And this is an example here, which you might think, well, how does that compare with cool things such as DeepMind from Google beating the Go world champion? Well, the way this relates to that it works exactly the same. It works exactly the same. Now, first of all, you've got to know that Asian characters, Chinese in this case, so this is about a census in China, 800 forms filled out in handwriting. 800 million, excuse me, now 800 would not be, we could do that in the afternoon here in the room. 800 million. So if you don't want to hire 100 million people to process the forms, you've got to have some algorithms to do that. Now, Chinese characters, and Fujitsu knows something about them. I don't know whether it's clear all to you that in the Japanese language, one of the character sets that's being used is related to the Chinese character set in complexity and such, so Fujitsu understands a little bit about it. Therefore, we do have optical character recognition routines that actually recognize Chinese characters. There are not 26 of them like in the English language. It's more like a couple of thousand. You probably need something like 3,000 to get around with the forms, so it's a bit more difficult. The accuracy of the optical character recognition for Chinese characters is around 95%. Humans can do better than that. They can do 96% instead of 95%. Now, don't laugh at this 1% because 1% of 800 million is 8 million. So if you are stuck with 8 million forms that you've got to do in your spare time, you will be still impressed. So that 1% is worth doing too. However, one can improve on that. And the way to improve on that, we don't play Go. Well, actually, some people in Fujitsu, I'm sure, do play Go. But what we did is this thing that works exactly the same. It's a deep learning algorithm using neural networks. It uses several layers of neural networks because that's how the brain works. The information is processed in a hierarchical fashion. Main features are extracted first in a rough manner and then will be specified to greater levels of detail. And the layers in the deep learning setup are getting more and more sophisticated, essentially using neural networks the way we model in mathematical terms the brain. And therefore, there are neurons, just like we do have. and there are synapses, which are the connections between the neurons, and the trouble is there are too many of them in the brain, and we cannot do that in a computer. The human brain has about 100 billion neurons and about 1,000 trillion synapses. 1,000 trillion, big number. Now, we can't do that in a computer. However, what we did is we took the usual routines that we're working with about 1 million or so neurons and increased that to 2 orders of magnitude 200-ish higher, and increased the number of layers to extract the features. And while we were doing that, we figured out the same thing as Google's DeepMind. By the way, Google's in the sense that they bought it, right? That algorithm and routine was created in London, England, by a startup that was acquired by Google. Because in London, England, these days, around the Imperial College, there is an incredible artificial intelligence startup scene forming, and there are smart things being created right there, just in brackets. So we did exactly the same thing, that we figured out how to teach the system so that the material that's being used for teaching it, it's created by the system. That's exactly what DeepMind did, because it was playing Go against itself, okay? And this is how it improved. And this is, by the way, one way of getting smarter than the program. That's a philosophical question in artificial intelligence. How can this program or algorithm be smarter than the creator? And the answer is, you let it learn from itself, and then it gets better. So that's exactly what we did. We did the deformations and the mistakes that you can make, and the inaccuracies in the characters by the system as the layers of the deep learning neural networks were engaged, and this is how it got better. So it got to 97%. That's another percent. It's still not 100%, but this is how this works. Case in point, I understand that you say, well, that's just only mildly applicable to my business, Chinese character recognition. I understand that. The point is, it's irrelevant what the application is. The relevant piece of it is the deep learning algorithm, the way you set it up, the way you do the computation, and the way you teach it, and the way you control it. That's the key capability and the key skill, and it's going to come to your business. It is going to come to your business. So next door, you have other applications like in the smart traffic management, in the intelligent traffic management systems, and so on. We are demonstrating that capability. Now, there is an interesting other question. I understand my time is coming to an end. However, 2 quick things. The one application is the vehicle recognition, which is using that routine, essentially the same technique. So when you drive, even at high speed with the car, what the system can do in real time, it can identify the objects that you are passing. It knows whether it's a car, a truck, or a pickup truck. That would be an interesting question to ask, whether it recognizes a proper F-150 American pickup truck. That I'll take with me. That I'll take with me and try to figure out. However, it does that. Currently does not recognize make, but it will. Our people are working on it already. And that information can be then used for smart traffic management and things like that. A similar application is smart parking that we do in Japan or in Dubai. Now, there is a very interesting twist to that here, and that is that, the surveillance of a parking space can happen in many ways. You can put lots of sensors and beacons into the parking lot and so on. This doesn't do that at all. What it does, it uses a camera, wide angle camera, and it just observes what's happening. In a way, cameras and video feeds are becoming the universal sensor of IoT. Because if you are smart enough, you can figure out by watching it what's actually happening, and you don't need the other sensors. So what's happening is this. It identifies the parking spots very quickly, and then as it learns, it identifies which one is occupied, which one is not occupied. You get real-time information about how you are doing on several levels in a parking house or large parking lots. For very large parking lots, 1 camera suffices. The video feed doesn't need to be that good for that kind of analysis. And then the fun starts, because then you can ask now questions. How is it going to be next Saturday? Not today, next Saturday, because there's an event in town. I've got to know. And what's the weather going to be like, and what are the other parameters are going to be like, what is the sentiment, what kind of people are going, what kind of cars, makes. They can even tell you how many Toyotas are likely to be on that, in that particular parking spot at that time. Using the same technique, neural networks, several layers, deep learning, algorithms of the artificial intelligence kind. You see, this is, when we do these projects, this is how we learn. We ourselves learn. Fujitsu does the projects for customers, and we learn in digital projects, and this is our experience. All kinds of difference, and I'll give you a notion here on this slide how many projects we have done. And this is the answer to the question of how would you go about it if you worked with us. This is what we can do for you. Now, two more pieces are important, and then I'm wrapping up. The one piece is that you need a platform to do that. We have created a platform. It's called MetaArc, and it's a platform that is based on a cloud computing infrastructure that we have created on an open source basis. It's using OpenStack at the foundation. And on top of that, we provide very particular services so that Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and other kinds of implementations are easier. Multi-cloud management is included, and it can do amazing things at different service levels than other mass and consumer-oriented clouds, and it has a different security notion attached to it. We have one of our domain experts in the room, Brad Mallard from the UK, and he will be around the whole day, and he will be participating in expert talks and breaks out. Talk to Brad about it, what this platform can do for you as a foundation of a digital transformation. And the last point I'd like to make is this. You see, there is this question of when you embark on a digital transformation, and we talked about why you would do that and how you would do that, there's a key element to it. Fujitsu's approach is the methodology, if you want, is co-innovation. What we mean by that is we are not going to tell you what to do, but we sit down and talk, and you tell us about your business, and you bring in your people who have ideas how to reinvent that business in the digital age, and then we can do it together. And at the end of the journey, again, is to create a safer, more prosperous and sustainable world. And the almost paradoxical thing about it is that the more digitalized this world is, the more human-centric it can be. Thank you.